Are electric motorcycles the way of the future? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let's talk about it. Hope you guys are having a great day today. It's a wonderful day to be alive. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about electric motorcycles. As you know, this is becoming more and more a topic nowadays that's coming up. And before we can talk about motorcycles, I feel like we have to talk a little bit about cars and how it's affected the car industry and what's going on over there in that world. So I myself have an electric car, and so I'm a little bit more in tune with what's going on with the electric car world than maybe some. And what I've seen is, in my opinion, you know, nobody can foretell the future, but I really think that electric cars are here to stay. They're just better on every side of things. Now, a lot of people do say, here's some of the negative things that people say, and they are true to some extent. Some of the things that are said are that they don't go very far. They take too long to charge. They're too slow. And those things are true of some electric electric cars. But technology is improving at a very quick rate. So since I got my Tesla, I have a Tesla Model S, got the 75D, and that was 2 years ago. They've increased their mileage. I think the top was around 300 miles was how far the electric cars would go. Now they're at 400, and they're talking, I bet you before the end of the year we're going to hear how they've improved it to closer to that 500 or even 600 mile range. And that's just the way it's going to keep going. They're just going to keep being electric car improvements, and primarily in the battery, and that's where all of this technology is going into. The electric motors are pretty much where they need to be. There's not going to be there's not a lot of headroom for improvement there, and other systems with the cars. But when it comes to the battery, there's a whole lot of improvement that I feel like we have yet to see. And so one thing that's kind of interesting is the more you have range on a car, it actually affects a lot of different things. As they're able to get further range, what does that mean? Well, that means you can make the batteries smaller, which means it can go faster, and it can go further because it weighs less. So the smaller they can get those batteries, the more dense the energy, the more range that they can get, the faster they can go, etc. Not to mention the charging rate. Even if they don't actually change the rate of charge, if you have more miles that a battery can go, it drastically changes how quickly the vehicle charges. And the reason for that is, a little known fact about electric vehicles is when you are charging from 0 to 80%, it's a lot faster than that last 20%. And it's like an exponential curve if you were to watch how long it takes per percent battery energy gained. So that's why you always see things quoted as the charge rate for 0 to 80% of the battery many times. It's because it's a drastic difference. It basically takes you about the same time to charge it's the same time to charge from 0 to 80% as it does from 80% to 100%. So that last bit is definitely a lot different. So technology has been increasing at a drastic rate, and I think it's you're going to see some breakthroughs here in the next decade that are just going to make it seem like there's no reason at all to have gas-powered cars. They've already reached, I believe, or at least very close to it, cost parity with how much it costs to actually build a gas car. If they're not there, they're very close. And Tesla's definitely leading the pack on all of that. So if you get a chance, I definitely suggest going out. Oh, look at that ocean. Love looking at that coming out here. I definitely highly suggest going out on a test ride, because the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the enjoyment factor of an electric vehicle. It's hard to explain until you've ridden it, but if you watch any review video, and I'm sure there's somebody out there, I haven't seen them yet, that doesn't like electric motorcycles, but I have yet to find anybody take that Livewire out for a ride and go, it just wasn't very fun. They all love it. And it's the same experience I've had with electric cars. I haven't test driven the motorcycles myself, but man, that instant torque without needing that pause for the different gears to engage and whatnot, or downshifting, or whatever the case may be with a gas vehicle, that instant torque, and lots of it, I might add.
Whoa. This is so cool, man. It's like instant power. Wow. Wow. That is incredible. Wow. It makes me grin. So big. So big.
Yes. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
The way it delivers that power.
If you like your Harley, oh man, you're gonna love electric vehicles. They got that good torquey feeling that you all enjoy from your Harleys. So I definitely suggest going out and trying that, but they're definitely not slow. Not with the way technology is going. They used to be in the past, and that was, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but basically a lot of the car manufacturers have tried to make electric cars for government, in order to meet government requirements for their fuel efficiencies of their fleet. And they purposely try to make them dorky, weird cars that are slow and boring and all of that jazz, just to...
All right, we're down the rabbit hole. What are you doing?
Just to satisfy that need, but they don't want people to actually buy them, because then they wouldn't make as much money, because they don't know how to make money on electric cars yet. And that's all going to change soon, though, because they're being forced into it by other companies. And now every car manufacturer, I believe, there might be one or two that are, I think Toyota's pretty far behind in the game, but all the other car manufacturers, from what I understand, are developing mini electric car platforms. And so we'll see how that goes, but I really think that that is the future of electric cars. And why is that important? Well, one thing is the environment. You know, I'm not a tree hugger, guys. I mean, I drive a Harley. I used to drive a Mustang GT. I love the raw sound of a gas vehicle. I love the feel of a rumbling Harley. You know, I love all that stuff, guys. But the fact of the matter is, why would we prefer to pollute the air? I mean, I don't think most people would. It's been a necessity, and it's been a very useful tool that we've had throughout the years. But you know, it's not sustainable, and fossil fuels, by definition, they're not able to be sustained as a source of energy for that much longer. We will eventually run out of oil. There's only so much oil to pull out of the ground. It will take a while, but we have to make the change at some point, not to mention, again, the pollution. So it just makes sense to go to a sustainable type of energy like electricity, which can be harvested from wind and sun and all sorts of other means. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole of, you know, what's better for the environment or not, but I'd say most people have come to the conclusion that electric cars are definitely better for the environment. So what about electric motorcycles? Are they the way of the future? Well, I would say in short, maybe. To quote from Jay Leno, he says that he believes, and I don't remember the exact quote, don't get me, but he said in a video he did about electric cars that he believes that they are the way of the future, and he's excited about it just like I am. But one thing that he said that I really took to heart, because I was kind of feeling a little bit like, I'm excited about this new thing and it's going to be better for the world and all that jazz, but I am gonna miss my gas vehicles. I'm gonna miss my Harley, you know. But you know, I don't think they're gonna go away completely, gas cars. And that's what he said. He said, you know, when they went to gas cars from horses, people were upset, no doubt, because they love their horses. You know, you could just imagine, you know, hey, I have this connection with a living being that I go out. It's not the same as this inanimate object that you're wanting me to, you know, take down this, you know, tar, chemical-ridden street. You know, I want to be out in nature with a horse and everything. I could understand why you would feel that way if that's what you had known all your life. But there were a lot of practical benefits to the gas car, and horses didn't go away. People still today have horses, but they don't have to do it to go get groceries. They don't have to deal with the mess of a horse just to go get groceries or to drive to work or whatever the case may be. They could if they wanted to, but they don't have to. They have other options, and for fun they can go out and ride their horse, and that's really a much better situation. And that's what I think is going to happen with motorcycles and electric vehicles in general, is we're going to see a shift towards electric vehicles, but we're not going to see gas vehicles completely. All right, it's going to let me through. We're not going to see electric vehicles completely take over and all gas cars just be banned from the road. It could. You know, there are, I think they'll be limited by the government in, man, I'm driving right through this tar. Oh well. It is what it is, as my wife likes to say. So, with gas cars, we're still going to have them, I think. We're still going to be able to take our Harleys out on the weekends and enjoy them. It's just, we're going to have a more practical means of transportation that's cheaper. That's one thing I didn't really touch on. And, you know, there's probably some debate on some weird articles out there, but I can tell you I've done the math, looked into it. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. It is cheaper to drive an electric car in the long term. So, is that a good thing or a bad thing, though? Well, I think it is a good thing that electric cars are coming, and electric motorcycles in particular, as we're discussing here, are coming. And that's because you have cool things you can do with it. Like, I'm all for the loud rumble of the Harley, don't get me wrong. It is one of the things that draws me to it. But there's also something to say about driving through a neighborhood or a forest or, you know, somewhere a little more serene and not having any sound. Now, I haven't experienced it on a motorcycle, an electric motorcycle, but I think it's going to be very interesting. In fact, certain things like dirt bikes in particular, you know, maybe you want to have a dirt bike track out in the backyard. You got some land out in the back, but your neighbors get ticked off because of the loud sound. Well, fixed with electric motorcycles. You know, there's a lot of good things about electric motorcycles, and I'm telling you, you get on one, you're gonna understand why they are so much fun compared to gas vehicles as well. I think they both have their place in the world, but I think electric has definitely got a lot more marks in its favor. So what do we have for electric motorcycles out there, and why do I say kind of or maybe on whether or not motorcycles will be the way of the future? Well, again, we're talking about for fun. We still think that gas vehicles will be available. Well, a lot of people ride their motorcycles just for fun and not really so much for a practical need. And so if that's the case for you, excuse me, sir. If that's the case for you, then you may decide, I don't really need a cheaper ride than my, you know, as far as, you know, pay. It doesn't cost a lot in gas when you're riding a motorcycle. Typically, even big Harleys, they don't cost a lot in gasoline. So there's really not a reason to move to it for that sake. So it's possible that they won't completely take over the motorcycle side of things, but I do think they're going to be a big part of them, just like another type of motorcycle that will be added to the mix. And they could replace the majority of gas powered, but either way, what do we have right now on the plate to offer us for electric motorcycles? Well, in my opinion, there are two electric motorcycles that you might consider looking into. One of them is the Harley Livewire, and the second one is the Zero motorcycle. Now, they're two different types of motorcycles, in my opinion. I don't know if you'd call the Livewire a cruiser or a sport bike, maybe somewhere in between. But the Zero is definitely much more towards the sport bike realm. And just to kind of go over what they have available and if this makes sense today to get, the Harley Davidson, the Livewire, has a stated range of, I believe, 146 miles, and that's city range. Now, with electric vehicles, city range is typically longer range than highway range, which is the opposite of gas vehicles, and that's because of just the way that they're geared with regenerative braking. Go ahead, guys. And whatnot. So when you're at stop and go, you're actually getting that energy back. But whenever you are going at higher speeds, it takes more energy. I won't go down that rabbit hole. Point being that if you go out on an electric motorcycle, you're going to have more range in the city compared to higher speeds on the highway. So 146 miles. In the highway, I believe mixed driving, it says something like 95 miles. And this right here is where the Livewire, in my opinion, fails. That is not enough range. Not if you want to take this on the highway, ever. In some places, you actually could not even do it. It would not be possible. Unless you had friends every 80 miles that you wanted to plug in and charge overnight every 80 miles, which is obviously not going to happen. But what you do have on the Harley Davidson Livewire is level 3 charging. Now that's the fastest charging that they have right now, which will allow you to actually charge your Harley within about an hour, I believe is what they say, is something like 0 to 80% is 1 hour charge time. Now that's doable as far as if you're going and you have to charge once or twice, you know, you stop for an hour, you know, that's fine. But the range is just not enough. You know, if you had to drive every 80 miles, it's about an hour worth of driving. You drive an hour, you charge an hour. That's not practical, guys. Now, there's one guy that was interviewed on Matt Laidlaw's new podcast, which is actually pretty interesting. I've found I enjoy watching that from time to time. But they had one of their customers that is a enthusiast with electric vehicles, and he was talking about doing this long ride, and he was planning it out. And I think that's one thing that in his case, I would say it would make sense to buy the Harley Davidson Livewire. Sounds like he's a rich guy. He's got the money to spare. You know, if you got 30 grand in your pocket to blow on something, you know, why not get you a fun toy like that? And you know, what he's doing with it is he's trying to figure out, you know, the fun of it is to see if he can make it to this destination, and he's planning out his route and all that, and that's cool. You know, I get that. That's the same reason why people build their own choppers and whatnot, you know, and drive older motorcycles. Other than the cost, you know, that's part of it too. But part of the fun is just to see, hey, can I actually make it to my destination? And if I do, man, it's like a badge of honor. Yeah, I made it. You know, you don't say that when you're in a Camry and you make it to your destination. You don't say, wow, yeah, I made it to where I'm going. But let's see if I can actually, some motorcycle up there. Let's see if I can get in this other lane. And I'm blocked. That's all right. We'll get it next time. So that's part of the fun is just seeing what you can do with the bike. But most of us out there, what's going on, man? Most of us out there do not have the ability to just blow 30 grand on a motorcycle that can only drive us around the city. Now, if you only needed it for the city and you know, you had the money to do it, I'd say go for it. It'd be a good bike. But yeah, you're never going to take that thing on the highway, not with its current setup. The Zero motorcycle, on the other hand, is a little different. It goes a stated 200-mile city range, and my guess is they're probably somewhere around, I'm totally ballparking this, but maybe let's say 120-mile highway range. And in reality, you're not going to actually even be driving 120 miles. If that is the range that it can get from 100% to 0%, because you're not going to take it from full to empty before a charge. It's like with a gas car. You don't drive a gas car until it's just completely out of gas. You typically drive it to about, you know, quarter of a tank left, and then you go ahead. But it doesn't make sense to ride it that far, that close. It'd be too risky to always try to go down to 0% every time. So you just don't have enough range, even with the Zero, with the higher amount of range that you can get from that. As far as the charging, you have a different setup on the Zero. It has the level 2 charging. Now, there's pros and cons to that. So the fact that the Harley-Davidson has a level 3 is better as far as faster charging goes, but when it comes to charging at home, the Zero is actually better, because you can't have, I mean, as far as I know, you can't have a level 3 charging set up at your home, because it's DC to DC charging. There may be a way to do it, but it's probably very expensive and difficult to do. Level 2 is pretty simple, easy to do, and you can charge in, I want to say, like 4 or 5 hours. You can fully charge your motorcycle on a level 2 charger. The Harley, what you have to do at home is you have to charge on the level 1 charging, which it does have as well, which you're talking probably 12 hours. And so that, you can do that overnight, but that's even kind of cutting it close. If you're, you know, getting it in at 10 o'clock at night and then you need to leave it, you know, 7 in the morning, that's not enough time to fully charge it. So the level 2 charging is definitely a benefit for at-home charging. So if you had a Zero, which is a cheaper motorcycle, I want to say they're somewhere around the $20,000 range, and you didn't need to go on highway rides, I definitely think that would be a possibility for somebody. But still, you're still talking, it's too expensive for the limits that are in place, where you can't actually take these motorcycles realistically on the highway, other than to just see if you can do it, you know, plan it out, spend tons of time, you know, and you're not really worried about getting there in a reasonable amount of time. So that's why I say that they're not ready today. Only for someone who just has the money to blow and already has other motorcycles that they can take for long rides, would you want to consider the electric motorcycle. I tell you, if I was in that situation, I would have me multiple bikes. I'd have my gas powered, and I'd have my electric for the fun, just short distance rides, and just to have a quiet ride every once in a while. I think that would be interesting to have. So anyway, that's everything I wanted to go over on the electric motorcycle. So I really do think it's exciting, though. If you think about it, the electric motorcycle, once they get that battery to a better technology, let's say they can get it to 200 miles range, okay, and you can charge that sucker up, let's say it's the same amount of time, level 3 charging, and you can do 1 hour 0 to 80% charge. Well, you could drive that thing for, 100 miles, and that's only half your tank, so to speak, half your energy density that you use up, and then you only have to charge it 50% of the way. So you're talking like a 30 minute charge. You go in and grab you a drink, whatever. You're driving for an hour and a half, and you're charging for half an hour. That's much better than driving for an hour, charging for an hour kind of a situation. And they do have electric charging stations popping up around America. There's one company, I'm trying to remember what they're called. It is,
One shift later.
shoot, I can't remember the name of it. But there are companies that are creating charging stations that are mapping the United States where you can travel long distance. And what's going on, man? That guy looked pretty serious. You know, with Tesla chargers, one misunderstanding that I heard the other day on a YouTube video was they thought that you could actually charge electric motorcycles at Tesla charging stations, and you can't. Currently, there's no other manufacturers that are allowed to charge at Tesla's charging stations, and that could change in the future if other companies want to make deals with Tesla where they provide part of the cost associated with the charging stations. They've actually talked about wanting to do that with other people, but nobody's taken them up on it yet. So we'll see what happens there. What do you guys think? Are you excited about electric motorcycles, or are you scared they're going to take away your awesome Harley? I don't think that's going to happen, guys. But let me know down in the comments what you think. It's great to talk to you guys, and we will catch you in the next one.